Good evening, morning, afternoon, night, whenever you find it most convenient to listen to the Bonfire. I, as always, am Alan, the Pole with the Goal, joined by my lovely co-host, Tim.
I thought you were going to call him DJ first for some reason.
Switched it up.
I was taking a sip of water. Yeah, that was crazy. Hello.
And, of course, DJ.
I am offended.
Don't be.
It sounded like we had like a heartbeat in the background there. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I think he was unmuting his mic. I think he was just so flabbergasted that I called you first. So he was like, no.
I am so angered by this.
So angry. So angry.
DJ's like, I can't work under these conditions. I'm out.
I require $50 billion.
And with that, I am out. Okay, Sharks. So, not to confuse with the San Jose Sharks, but that's a different sport entirely. So, before we get in, I feel like we just have to do one last final shout out to Jonathan Kane, who I did get to meet at this most recent match. We had a lovely conversation in the concourse prior to the game last weekend. So, so great to actually see the person we've been shouting out. Hope to see Jonathan at more games. And I was telling him about how Matt thought it was super funny how his name is just a combination of Jonathan Taze and Patrick Kane. So love that. Love that.
Yep.
Good times overall. So let's get right into it. Very short news segment. Stuff we pretty much already know, but, we just want to look on. Omari Glasgow, he got called up from Fire 2 to Fire 1 on a short-term loan.
Yeah, and he had his debut, which we'll talk about later, which I think is the bigger news. So a short day loans only last 4 days, so they'd have to do another one. They can do up to 4 per season. After the match, Frank Klopas in the press conference told us that he wanted to find a way to get Glasgow to be able to be part of the squad full time. He played well in his debut.
Yeah.
He didn't have enough minutes.
Yeah, it was very short, but still, it was pretty solid for a debut, I'll say that, in the majors.
Yeah, no, he looked good. He looked good out there. When we spoke to him, Joe asked if he had a chance to. Joe Chats from On Tap Sportsnet, I'm just going to give him the full shout out. Asked him if he had a chance to let his mom and grandma in Guyana know that this was happening. He said that he hadn't, which I think he would have found the time if he wanted to. I think that he just more wanted to have his debut and not have to worry about them watching him at the same time. But
that's cute.
Yeah, he was very phenomenal guy, very good player. Was talked about wanting to help the team win more than anything that he did mattering, which is what you want to see from a player like this. But he's an exciting player. He's a good guy. He's a great story. He's part of a national team that is on the up and up in a country that's hopefully on the upswing, and hopefully can be part of the Fire being on an upswing as well.
Amen, I say to that. A lot of us here at Men in Red have been calling on him to get a call up to the first team in some way or form. And especially on Hot Takes, as if you guys have listened to the most recent episodes of that, our very own Scotsman, Paul, gave him many praise upon praise. So we were definitely happy to see Glasgow coming up. And at one point we were chanting in the section, "We want Glasgow." So,
by the way, as one of maybe 2 people that associated with this pod that have any experience with Guyana, because I lived there for a while, I think that there's a reasonable chance his name is pronounced Glasgow.
Glasgow.
Closer to Glasgow than Glasgow, but I haven't spoken to him about it.
Well, we could have asked that.
I did talk to a group of Ghanaian players Ghanaian players that played with him. Guyanan players that played when they played with him, and they didn't correct me on his name, so at the very least.
Fair.
So is it Glasgow or Glasgow, or
I can look at the pronunciation guide on this, but we'll just go Glasgow for now.
Yes, so I apologize to anyone who knows the correct pronunciation. I am not from Guyana, nor have I been there. Tim has been there, but even still,
we'll honor our local Scotsman by calling it Glasgow.
I guess. Yes.
Yes.
Shout out to
there's a great
Paul.
rum. There's a great rum from Guyana, Demerara, that maybe we should just drink at a tailgate, in his honor.
I definitely love that. Yeah. So another piece of news that was sort of announced recently. We previously had Hyundai or Hyundai. There's several.
You said it right.
Hyundai. There's a British pronunciation. I've been watching Grand Tour and Top Gear clips, and they, British people.
And British people always pronounce foreign names the correct way. They're known for that.
We're such comedians. We had Hyundai as our shirt sleeve sponsors until I'm pretty sure it was because of Carvana that they pulled out.
Yep.
So they pulled out, and now we have a new shirt sleeve sponsor in Magellan. What do they do exactly?
Specialty steels.
Specialty steels. So like steel, but specialized.
Yes. So
okay.
yeah, if you need certain kinds of steel, they're your people. If you need other kinds of steel, they're not your people.
Well, I mean, I was thinking about, if I ever needed steel, I'd call up my sister in Pittsburgh, considering, steel, Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I get that.
They have a football.
You can call it Magellan instead. Although Chicago was one of the steel capital, Gary, Indiana, like that area was one of the steel capitals. I'm assuming it's part of that, although they're a newer company than that. But it is worth saying that it's a little bit odd to see a major sponsor, like shirt sponsor or sleeve sponsor or anything like that, of an MLS team that isn't a consumer facing company, because it's a consumer facing form of advertising, right? Mm-hmm. Magellan has been a team sponsor for years. So I guess that there's somebody there that just really likes the team, which I guess is great for the team, and that's awesome. They
have enough steel now if they need it.
Yeah. We'll get into the match in a minute, but maybe the team could use some more.
True. They could, I guess, use it to, build a new stadium or something like that.
Oh, I meant metaphorical steel.
Oh, okay. Metaphorical.
They could use the steel to repair Tobias Hallquist's leg.
Yes. Which, speaking of, Joe Chats, who we previously mentioned, had reported that Tobias, how do you, we've said this several times. How do we say his first name?
Tobias, but Toby, he goes by Toby, so we can.
Toby Hallquist will be
Cheeky
out.
Toby.
Toby makes it sound more like a hockey name, doesn't it?
Toby Hallquist, I guess, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
He is Scandinavian, to be fair.
I guess. So Joe Chats confirmed that he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks at the least with an MCL injury. Won't need surgery, as according to Frank Klopas, which is honestly good news considering the game where he did go out. Joe said it not to look at the replay, and luckily I didn't see the replay or when it happened, because when I was on the other side.
Don't rewatch that. It looked bad. It was Dax McCarty. Dax had no intention of harming Toby at that point. I think a lot of us were thinking it was a season-ending injury, so it's great to know that there's no major structural damage requiring surgery. Yeah.
Still, great shame that he is out for an extended period of time, 4 to 6 weeks. That's he would be back, I guess, June, July.
Yeah, he just had a very rough introduction to MLS. Lots of injuries, hard to get into the rhythm for him. But again, we'll take the upside on this, I think, or at least I will, and say that I think we were afraid that it was going to be something that would end the year for him, and it's not. So that's a positive.
Mm-hmm. Amen, I say to that. And when I jokingly said about steel, about building a new stadium, we're once again back to this saga. We did talk about, of course, the Bears wanting to build their new stadium on the lakefront. We mentioned the White Sox wanting a new stadium, and we also mentioned the Red Stars wanting in on the stadium build. There was recently an article put out on Chicago Sun-Times talking about how the game that will be played on June 8th at Wrigley Field against Bay FC is sort of a stepping stone to show the city, to show really everyone that a lot of people will come to watch women's soccer, specifically the Red Stars. They've already sold 16,000 tickets for that game when their average attendance for Red Stars games at Bridgeview is like around 4,000.
3,000 to 4,000.
3,000 to 4,000. And they mentioned, do you know how to, I'm bad with names. Do you know how to say the president of the Red Stars last name?
I can see your face.
I'm so bad with names. I wish I should have checked this earlier. I'm one of those people that
I think it's Lietzau. I think it's just Lietzau. Yeah.
Great. Okay.
I think it's probably mispronounced Polish, by the way. Like, I think it's like an Americanized Polish name.
Lietzau? I get that sounds.
Yeah.
That sounds
but like
great.
my name's been mispronounced for 100 plus years now. So it's one of those, like, it's evolved.
Yeah. And while we did know about the Red Stars and them wanting a piece of the action when it comes to building a new stadium, the thing that the article pointed out was that one thing that Lietzau said, the reality is Bridgeview is a beautiful stadium. It's just too far away from the city of Chicago. Bridgeview long has been the source of frustration for the franchise in terms of fan growth. Many fans can't afford to make the long commute, and there isn't convenient public transportation option out to the suburb. From a pragmatic standpoint, the Red Stars know being in the city will give them the best opportunity to continue developing their fan base.
Yeah, and I think this is just like one more proof of, like, I've called Bridgeview like a poison chalice for new teams. Like, I think we saw that with the House. We may be seeing that with the Chicago Hounds rugby team, where it's just it's too good of a building to say no to if you're a new team, but it just, the location just doesn't work. It's not close to highways. It's impossible to get to by transit.
And even with, I've done several options of getting from the city into Bridgeview, be it taking a pub to pitch option. I've also done train to also, like, taking both the CTA bus to nearby and walking. I've done the PACE buses, and none of them are like preferable.
There's many options, right?
Yeah.
Lots of options, none are good, they all end up taking too much, either in terms of time or money, and I think that's the issue. I will say, hidden in the Red Stars, hidden in like what the Red Stars are saying, like Laura Ricketts specifically, is that her dad is someone that has access to the family money, as does she to some extent. But I do sort of wonder if part of this is an audition for the Red Stars moving to maybe Wrigley Field for a few years, hoping to get a more permanent home, or it's part of a pitch just to show that the Red Stars do have commercial success, and like they can have commercial success, and they do have commercial potential if they're in the city, and that it is Bridgeview and not the product and not the market that's a really the limiting factor.
Yeah. Bridgeview, people have their opinions about Bridgeview. Some people say we should go back. I'm against that. Even with Soldier Field being what it is, I just think Lakefront is definitely a more better location.
It's certainly, like, it has a hard limit on its economic potential just with its location. And I think we've seen that enough. Yeah.
All right. I feel like it's time to talk about this game.
So,
sadness.
Do you want the good news?
What is the good news?
Chris Brady's really good.
That's the good news.
Yes.
Having said that, the bad news is a lot longer. I mean, the Fire got a shot on target, which they didn't have the previous match. So, hey, like, shots on target are important to getting, like, I'm not an expert with this, but I'm pretty, like, my understanding is that having a shot on target is important to getting a goal.
Yes.
Most of the time.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Wayne Gretzky. But how long did it take until that shot was taken by, what was it? It was that free kick from Shaqiri in like the 70th something minute.
Yep. I think 72nd based on my notes, but I mean, I was trying to do multiple things. Wasn't a pretty game. I mean, it wasn't a pretty game for the Fire. They have now failed to score in 372 minutes of competitive soccer. That's, for those of you at home doing math, over 6 hours. So you could have watched 6 hours of Chicago Fire soccer and not seen a goal. they had 2 goals in the month of April, which we knew before the match because it happened in May, but like they had 0 goals in the last match in March. Like it's not like it's frustrating. It's difficult, right? Like but they had some chances. They had some momentum early in the game. They controlled the first maybe like 15, 20 minutes of the match, I thought, with possession. They never looked particularly dangerous.
Yeah, you could tell at one point that these are 2 of the lower end of the table teams with the Fire and New England. Both teams struggled to do anything really in the ball. It was very back and forth. But at one point, the Revolution realized you just need to take a chance. And that's kind of what happened in terms of that one goal, the 1 goal actually going in for the Revolution. Like it was a good goal. And it's something that I feel like I don't know why a lot of the Fire players don't try to do that. And I feel like a lot of teams know that and have just taken, I guess, they've taken advantage of that. They know that the Fire aren't going to take their chances from distance or try to do more risky goals because either they can't or they're too scared to, and have essentially done the tactic of crowd the box, will get the ball either way, essentially.
So the goal, just talking about the goal for a second, it happened off of basically a miscue by Gutman. I thought Gutman had a decent game on the whole. I don't know, DJ. Like, what did you think?
Full honesty, I thought Gutman and Aragoni both had good games as the fullbacks compared to everyone else. But then again, I don't think they were great.
We're not grading. Like, if we're not grading on a curve here, neither one were great. And again, like saying like you did everything great except for that like terrible giveaway that led to the only goal was sort of like, sure, Miss Lincoln, but other than that, how is the play? You know, like it's one of those like it's unfortunate.
Tim,
and it's
is that
not
your
like
favorite saying?
I don't know. It just comes up a lot. I think because I think that you like history, and I'm like, all right, like make a historical reference, even though I don't really think about the Civil War very much because I'm significantly less interested in it than I think most people are as a historical period. I don't know. Or at least most people in this country. But yeah, it was a bad game all around. Like I can't think of a single Fire player that had a great game. Which is frustrating because like I thought Maury Pineda had a phenomenal game the previous week, and he followed it up with, I thought, a game where he didn't look very good. Like the center backs looked like they were sort of like trying to part ways, like the Red Sea at certain points of the match. And like, just to be clear, like I think that the Revolution played better than the Fire through a lot of the match. The Fire did have chances, and they maybe should have had a goal. Like they had a shot at the crossbar. Like there were a couple shots that were blocked and stuff like that. But like shots blocked just means you're getting bodies to block shots, which is what you want to do if you're trying to prevent shots. You know, after the match, Frank Lopez told us that the team had 22 crosses into the box, which is a good number, but none of them really landed in dangerous places. So
no, like mentioned, all of them were just booted away or just headed away, booted away. And I feel like teams just know that. They just take advantage of that. That if as long as they put bodies in front of the net or in the box, they'll head it away or boot it away because they know that the Fire aren't going to take chances that don't include a cross or something like that. And there's just a lot of free kicks are still copy paste from week to week, either just going to the first man, first post, or just going all the way on the other side of the box for a
But
recycle.
Hugo Kuiper's this match had multiple shots from inside the box. And I don't believe that he managed any of them on frame.
No, I feel like all of them just went towards another body, either a player on the same team or on the other team.
Right. Now, like, you know, like one of them was like 9-10 yards out. But the issue is you could say that he had service in the box, which is technically true. But I think when you look at why he had service in the box and when he had it, by the time that he had it, the other team's defense had time to set, right? Like he had a shot in the 13th minute that like off his good foot, off his right foot, came off a set piece, but it happened fast, but there was just a sea of bodies in the box. Like the Revolution just crowded the ball. And by the time that the shot was actually taken, like there was just that many people in that area. Like the chance of it would need to be like a magical ball to make it through, like that sea of bodies. And he missed. So it just, I really hate the phrase this, he has to do better there. And to a certain extent he did, but to a certain extent, I don't think that he was getting phenomenal service to do better there.
Yeah, it's just difficult because like you said, in like a lot of these services just needed to be magical and there's no magic right now. It's quite dead.
Yeah. I mean, 372 minutes without a goal, which this is one of, I believe, 3 occasions in the past, more or less like 34 game MLS season, starting from the time that Frank Lopez took control of the team when Ezra Hendrickson was dismissed, when the team has had a 6-hour stretch of not scoring a goal, which the 6th most expensive, 5th or 6th or 4th, depending on how you count it, different ways, but team in MLS should not go 6 hours without scoring goals, especially when most of that time is at home.
Yeah. I mean, prior to recording, when I was on the commute home, I was just thinking this whole time, like how, I don't want to say unlucky, but like how, like it just feels like this city or this team is cursed. Like no matter what gets fixed, something else just breaks down. Like I was thinking back to last season when we were talking about we need someone up forward, because Kacper Przybyłko is just not cutting it to be like the lead forward striker or something like that. And now we went and spent a huge money on a striker that has proven to scoring goals in any circumstance or in most circumstances. Or that we were talking about like improving the midfield, especially like more defensive midfield. And we got a proven winner in Kellen Acosta. We remember the hype around it, especially with the blurred picture in preseason. There was, and we were all like, hey, something may come about this because we have a squad. And then someone said it on Hot Takes. I'm pretty sure it was Matt that the team wasn't going to go anywhere if Frank Lopez was still at the helm.
That may be true, but I don't think that that's the fundamental issue with the squad. I mean, I think Kellen Acosta can be a decent piece. I think that he's a quality MLSer. I don't think that he is a player that, especially at where he is in his career, like, I think being a little bit past the prime of his years, where you want to be excited about building a team around him, right? And so I still think that there's like fundamental squad composition issues here that are part of what's holding the team back. Does that all of it? No. But I think that is certainly a part of what is going on.
I know, but with the team now dropping to 13th and being en route essentially to finish probably even lower than that, it's like, who do we trust that job to of building?
Not high.
So that's a couple of issues there, right? Like, so part of it is like, I think that you have to question about whether or not like Frank Lopez is the right guy to take the team forward. Arlo White had this phrase that, I think that is just common in England, but he said it a few times where he's taken this team as far as it can go. And I think to a certain extent, that's true of Frank Lopez. I mean, I've been in the room with him enough times after games like this one, and he's been saying the same things. And look, I get that he doesn't have to have answers to the media. Like that's not his primary role, is to like tell us what his plans are and stuff like that. But when he keeps on saying the same thing every week, and we keep on seeing the same thing every week, like part of what our job is to do, like when I'm there, I'm asking him questions, and is giving him an opportunity to communicate to the people that are there as fans that are trying to find hope, trying to find a reason to look forward to the next game, even if the results in this game haven't been great. And he's been saying the same thing of he's just trying to give guys confidence, and it's about what they do in practice, and that's it. And he hasn't really had more answers that are specific than that, which again, like doesn't have to have that to me, but he has to have it to the squad. And based on results, it seems like he doesn't have it there either.
Yeah. And this whole stretch has taken a toll on, like you mentioned, on squad mentality and as well as fan mentality. And I mentioned in the game against Real Salt Lake, where we let in 4, that the one part of the supporter section that goes nonstop, being Sector Latino, they always play and sing no matter what. The fact that they even stopped shows that like a lot of people are just, I guess, tired of the current situation, what's going on right now. I mean, nothing's going on. And in this last game, it was genuine. It was hard across all 90 minutes to just do anything. This last game, like a funny story, essentially, to make long story short, I wasn't able to play my saxophone because I have hurt my hand in a after school sport setting. Basically,
was it rugby?
It wasn't rugby. It was football, American football, and we were doing field goal kicks. Essentially, kicked the ball at Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown got his revenge, and my friend, instead of kicking the ball, kicked my hand. And I had to go to urgent care and get it x-rayed. And luckily, they said there were no fractures, but it still hurt. So I tried playing. It was really uncomfortable. So I just spent the game either waving a flag or playing the drums. It was hard for Section 8 and the groups there just to really get anything sung. And especially in the second half after that goal. Like, we felt the frustration around. And even when I looked to my right to SL, like, they were still, for the most part, going on, but you could tell a lot of the group there were just, like, there. And we're just looking at the game and they couldn't believe what they were seeing as well. So, and then afterwards as well, like, everyone just seemed to go home in silence, essentially, and disappointment. And there was, usually the players and Klopas will like sort of come over like near the beginning of the final third, and they'll like applaud and clap and something like that. And some people in the fans in the supporter section will also clap. Some people were like booing. Some people were yelling stuff. There was arguments also. Like there was one person like yelling, being like, "Why are you booing?" And the other people's like, "Well, I'm not clapping. Why are you clapping?" And like, I mean, I haven't been a Fire fan for long, or like as long as other people have been here, since majority of my tenure as a supporter and follower of the Fire have been since the move to Soldier Field. But it's evident to me incredibly now, and definitely can be to newer fans, why the supporter section and just the culture has diminished across the years, like right now.
It's hard to have, when you think about like the single moment that is happiest in a soccer game. I mean, regardless of context, not considering anything else, it's a goal, right? Like it's seeing a goal. Now, I mean, obviously it's happiest if you're going up. I mean, if you're going up more, like if it's a comeback or something like that, that's great. But like, even if you're down 2-0 and it becomes a 2-1 game, right? Like that is something to celebrate. And I think what has been so frustrating has been, if you're a Fire fan and you've bought your ticket, there was a 3-game homestand, basically the latter half of the month of April, going to the first weekend of May. You could have gone to all 3 games and you wouldn't have seen a goal. And I think that's just very frustrating because that moment of transcendent joy that, I mean, again, even if you're down, even if it's we were down 2-0, now we're down 2-1, then you think, okay, maybe this is going to happen. It gives you that moment of something to hold on to, that moment of hope. And not having that goal, like not having a goal, just something to hold your hat on, I think is really deflating.
No, it was incredibly deflating across the board for everyone. So, and I mean, this was the longest home stretch, if I remember correctly, because the next one after this game with St. Louis, there'll just be 2 games.
No, there's another 3-game home. Oh, you may be right.
And I mean, this is spring is finally in the city. This was like the first warmer weather game because the one beforehand, it did get a lot colder near the end, but this one, it was just warm throughout. I mean, of course, we did have a bit of a storm beforehand, which was fun, but there's not a lot of summer games, so there's not going to be as many chances for people who are coming to visit the city for the summer, or want to take the time out to do something in the warm, which is my biggest frustration the past few seasons with how the season's being scheduled, that we always get the majority of our games when it's cold. So
yeah, and this goes back to the topic earlier of the Red Stars have staked a position of saying that if there's going to be money offered for stadiums and facilities for teams, that they think that as a professional women's team where women's teams have not, there's no dedicated, facility for women's teams in Chicago. The Chicago Sky are currently sharing with DePaul, not far from Soldier Field. They just would like to be at the table, and they would like some of that money, and in the interest of equity. Now, obviously, there's a natural affinity for 2 teams playing the same sport because they have the same demands for a facility in terms of pitch size and stuff like that. And the Flyer have issued the most milquetoast statement of all time of just we need to consider all options in a rapidly evolving situation or something to that effect. And that just shows why having an actual home that, even if it's shared, is a home you can call your own, matters, because the team can't really schedule that many games in the fall because they can get kicked out by the Bears, and in the summer they have to work around concerts and stuff like that, so pitch quality goes down. It's not ideal, and it's okay for now because Soldier Field is a beautiful location right off the lake. And there's enough seats for everybody. But it's not ideal in terms of scheduling and the experience it provides fans, because it means we got to go to games in February and March when it's not nice. And the team can't sell a bunch of tickets in June and July when hopefully the team has been winning, has strong results together, and it's a beautiful night for football, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I remember last year when I was in not the States and the team had
you can say Italy now, it's fine.
I know. So when I was in Italy and the team had a decent stretch of winning or going undefeated, and the moment I came back, it sort of fell apart. So I mean,
by the way, we're going to be opening a fundraiser, an Only Feet for Alan.
Yeah, Wiki Feet Finder, whatever it's called.
Yeah. So we'll
do that, and to Italy.
And we'll have paid content to send Alan back to Italy.
Help me get back to Italy.
Where he will eventually
will find my happiness, and the Fire will find
and musical success.
Yes, catch me at the Verona Arena performing whatever opera they choose to do, I guess.
A Polish American finding musical success in Italy. Mussolini is wetting his pants right now.
All right. Well, I mean, DJ, I actually wanted to ask you, because in the last episode, you said that this game should have been or must have been must be a dominant win, and it wasn't really neither a win or a dominant.
So a dominant win would have been something like, even if you win 1-0, but dominate the game and just have everything go right on New England's side, except that one moment. It was almost the other exact way around. And here's the thing, okay? New England's not a good team. They stink. They've stinked ever since they fired Arena. You cannot go into a game away from at home against New England, lose, and then expect anything good to happen the rest of the week. The Fire are now facing a bunch of playoff teams. These are teams that will be challenging for the playoffs. And at this point, the Fire have nothing to go on. The Homestead was a complete disaster. And where do you go from here? The only good thing about this team right now is Chris Brady and the jerseys look good. Now, I can't even think of any players that are playing well enough other than Brady. Like Gutman and Aragoni are playing nice, and Guti's playing decently, I guess. But everyone else is just regressed.
Yeah. I think that you're right about a lot of that. Like it is just, it's difficult to figure out what you hang your hat on, right? I know I've said that before this episode, but did it feel like they were like the first 20 minutes? I don't know, DJ. Like it felt like they could have had a result this game.
Absolutely.
And then, but like, did it ever really feel to you like there was like a moment where there were moments that I think they were close to like scoring? Like I said, like Kuiper's shot in the box that was blocked, and like a second later ricocheted off to Pineda, who had a shot that was blocked. So like those are like, I guess, 2 quality chances, but
there was never a point in the game, in all honesty, where it was like the Fire are going to get a goal. You always have those games where it's like the Fire, you know a team's going to score. There was never a moment of that with the Fire.
Right. I feel like the way that I sort of felt about it was like there's moments that like maybe they could score here, like it would be a surprise, but never moments where it just felt like the team had strung together that possession and had movement on the ball and was like getting around the team's defense that thought, okay, they're going to score here. Like they deserve a goal here. There were individual moments that thought that they could maybe get a goal out of it, but that's different than feeling like they had the possession to score. Like, is that a fair summary of how you kind of thought about the performance?
Yep, pretty much. I mean, the offense was so bad yesterday. And here's the thing, too. I talk about the players. I like Mueller. I like him. He's cool and everything. He has regressed so much since the injury. It's such an unfortunate thing.
Yeah, I had hope for him, too, especially after reading his book.
Now, I mean, I think there's a chance that some of this comes back still, right? Because you don't come back from an injury the same way that you did before. And as much as you work in PT and stuff like that, like it's not, there's adjustments you have to make with the way that your body works and stuff like that I don't think come instantly. So I think that there is still a chance that he can become an effective player. And I think part of it's just Russ still, right? Like he talked about Russ when we spoke to him, like the after the match against the Red Bulls. So there is a chance that he could get that rust off of him. But
one other thing that I don't think we've talked about is Shihos went off injured.
I wasn't sure about that, and I meant to ask Frank about that, but I didn't have the chance because just of how late the game was and how abbreviated the press conference was. I didn't ask if that was an injury or did you see that it was an injury or
he had ice on his legs and he was moving very slowly. The reason why I bring that up is because Shihos turns 34 next week. And he has regressed. Of all the players on the team that have regressed, his has been arguably the most notable. Like, he went from being in the contention for the best defender we've had since Johann Kappelhoff in 17 to pretty much not Francisco Calvo bad, but not much better either.
That's oh boy, that's almost slanderous.
I was about to say that's a lot.
He's not as bad as Calvo was. He actually makes good plays and then doesn't, pass the ball directly to someone else. But he has definitely regressed, and I'm starting to think that his age is starting to show.
It's a shame, really.
Which, to me, also kind of says maybe it's time to start just playing Pineda more. Granted, I'm part of the Pineda fan club. Alex and I are the heads, but still.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge part of the Pineda fan club, too. I thought he had a phenomenal game 2 weeks ago. I thought this game wasn't really his. In a weird turn of events, it turns out that during the rain delay, my mom was stuck next to Maury Pineda's dad. So they were talking about the game. Yeah. They were talking about the game for a while. So, or like about like just like what happened the previous game and stuff like that, because obviously the game hadn't been played at that point. I thought his game was okay this match. Like I thought that he was maybe on the wrong side of average a little bit. Not that I really think the goal or anything else was really his fault.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm too a part of the Maurizio Pineda fan club, both the player and the person. Prominent barn burner, as you mentioned on Hot Takes, Tim.
We've got two Maurizio Pinedas, both of who we like. So it's like
we were actually talking about it this morning in the barn burners group chat, and he said he is very flattered, and so yes, shout out to both Maurizio Pinedas.
You know what we really need to do?
Yeah.
We need to get them together sometime, not during a game day, and get them to exchange shirts.
That would be funny. Yeah. That'd be so funny. So let's get it to happen. I'm sure Maurizio would love that.
It's like everyone goes to brunch, they exchange shirts and shake hands with them at the brunch.
Love that. All right. All right. Is it time to talk about next week's game?
Yeah. Can we just talk about the history and leave it at that?
I mean, we could talk about how we've played this team twice and we beat them twice in two different competitions, both of which were, I would say, very much pinnacles of last season. The sort of the rivalry that started between Chicago and St. Louis City FC, which I mean, I guess is has already been set, with previous Chicago St. Louis rivalries such as the Cubs and the Cardinals or the Blues and the Blackhawks. So yeah, it's just another continuation in that saga. But those were some good games, both in the Open Cup and at home. But this time it's on the bounce. It's on the away at City Park, St. Louis City. They are 2-1-7, 2 wins, 1 loss, 7 draws. Very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like last year, they basically got everything going right for them off the ball. Like it was like every bounce went their way. Like they got. I mean, the beginning of the season.
At the beginning of the season, we were like saying that they were getting goals handed to them on like silver platters.
Yeah, it happened 5 or 6 times where they received a pass in a dangerous area from an opposing player, like not like a misplayed ball, like an actual pass.
Yeah, it seemed like other teams were just saying, "Hey, welcome to MLS," but here you go.
But this year, like they've been, so like last year they like smashed the over. This year they're like slightly maybe smashing the under.
Yeah, they are 15 goals for 14 against.
Which, by the way, going back to the previous match for a second, the Fire now have the 3rd worst goal differential in MLS.
Yeah.
Which is not great. Having said that, the Western Conference still looks much weaker than the Eastern Conference. When I said talk about the history, part of the history that I think is worth mentioning is Frank Klopas' first matches in his current tenure with the Fire. as head coach were against St. Louis. The team lost to Nashville. Ezra Hendrickson was dismissed afterwards. And then the 2 matches following that were against St. Louis, and the team managed results. I think that the conversation at the time was about how important the vibes were going to be under Frank Klopas. Given the results lately, the vibes have not been great. And I think this is going to be an interesting test. The squad, I think we can all agree, like on paper, looks better now than it did then. Like adding Hugo Kuipers, adding Andrew Gutman, Alan Aragoni, I think has played phenomenally well. Toby Salquist, unfortunately, will not be available. Like, I think the jury's out on him a little bit. I think that he has potential. We haven't seen it all. But if you look at the squad this year versus last year, I mean, you've added a team record signing, right? Like, so that's going to be a tool that didn't exist last year. And so I think the question is, against a St. Louis team that has more or less looked at the roster and said, nah, it'll be good. Can the team outperform what it did last year?
Yeah. Well, another little fun, quirky quack fact is that we are once again playing them between the dates of May 9th and May 13th. We're just playing in that same week of May again. So who knows? Maybe next season, maybe this week, next year, we'll be doing this game again, either in the Open Cup or home or away.
Yeah, this is MLS rivalry week. So it's good that the Fire are playing them because it means that the front, like MLS headquarters, is recognizing that this is a rivalry.
Yes,
because it is like I think in some ways like the intrastate rivalry, although it's not really intrastate because Sporting KC plays in Kansas, not in Missouri, but it's good that MLS recognizes the importance of St. Louis versus Chicago as a rivalry.
I mean, yeah, I remember last year during rivalry week, when they put like art of like all like these two of a player from each team, like sort of like bashing it out to show rivalry. They showed St. Louis against Sporting Kansas City, and a lot of people are like, "Wait, St. Louis are playing the Fire? That doesn't make sense."
You're talking about the graphic that the team that the league released. That
yes,
like,
the graphic.
It looked like a giant. It looked like a Bitmoji, like
boxing match
painting. Yeah, it was like a and. Oh my goodness. I don't know what cousin of some MLS executive that has no talent was hired to make these things because oh my goodness, were they ugly.
Yeah, no. But yeah, that was something that a lot of people mentioned. So it is great that the league is recognizing that there is a rivalry. Like we've mentioned, the Cubs, Cardinals, Blackhawks, and Blues. The rivalry already exists, so add the Fire and St.
To say
Louis
nothing of
there as well
of the historic rivalry between like teams around like northern Illinois, like coal country Illinois, and like southwest Illinois, like the area around St. Louis, which were two of the original hotbeds of soccer in the country 120 years ago.
Yeah, so there is deep history there as well. So. St. Louis, as we've mentioned, they have only 2 wins, 7 draws. They haven't lost, but they've been drawing. I guess
they have 1 loss in the season, don't they?
Yeah, they only have 1 loss in the season. Yeah. So, but like I mentioned, 7 draws. That's a lot of draws, and their previous form, 2 draws. They had a win against Austin. They had another draw, and then a loss to Salt Lake as well, and then 2 more draws, actually 3 on top of that, going back even further. So, some of the draws have been 0-0, but like 2-2, 3-3, 2-2. So it shows that St. Louis can score goals, but I guess maybe they're also having like a more defensive problem, even though they have MLS goalkeeper Roman Berkey on that squad still.
They've got a phenomenal goalkeeper. Like they concede a couple of matches. Like their back line is not phenomenal, but it's decent. and they've got Klaus up front. They don't have enough guys to support him, which is why they're, scoring 15, 16 goals, however many they've scored so far this year, and not 20 and 11 matches. They honestly, they're still outperforming the roster's spend, pretty significantly.
Truly. But I mean, what you just said sounds like very similar issues to what we've got.
Yeah, but they're doing it at a place where they, again, are spending significantly less on their roster than the Fire have.
True.
At the same time, I think that reality is sort of hitting them. And one of the issues you see with pressing teams, because the St. Louis City have the fastest attack in MLS, in terms of the speed at which they progress the ball up on the pitch once they receive it. And that's great. They're playing Red Bull soccer a lot more than the Red Bulls are these days.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is they don't have finishers. And then the issue, when you play that kind of soccer where you're going that fast in that direction, you're asking a lot of people to run a lot. And this becomes the time of year when it starts to be the point where making people run that much that quickly is starting to take a little bit of a toll. And in the end, when you keep the squad the same and you ask people to do this super high energy, fast, high press very quickly for an extended period of time, it ends up falling apart because human joints are not made to maintain that speed for that long at that level. And I think the question is when is that really going to hit them? And could it happen against the Fire?
I don't know. I feel like we always have a tendency of making the team that struggle sort of find their balance. I mean, look back to New England.
It happened last week. It happened last week. So, yeah. I mean, again, more than the result, I think the important thing for the Fire, because it's one of those things where yes, they're behind in the standings, they're behind where they should be, they're behind where they want to be. The most important thing in this match is to score multiple goals. It would be better to lose 3-2, I think, than to draw 0-0. I don't know, DJ, is that how you feel?
Yeah, basically.
People need to get goals. The number of balls that went high and wide. The Kasper Shibielko thing where you would have a guy 5 yard, Shibielko would be 5 yards away from the goal and would somehow manage to sky it. Whatever virus that was seems to have caught in the locker room in his absence. We need balls on target, and we need to see goals, just for players' confidence, for the future of the season, for all of that. More than a result, I think that's necessary.
I agree.
Talking about this team is it's making me very, very sleepy. I mean, it's already past midnight for DJ. It's 11 o'clock for us. We have a very late start time today, so I apologize if we sound a bit eepy. And I also, I'm a chronic apologizer, I've been told, but I do want to apologize if our enthusiasm isn't showing.
Just move to Canada, for my sake.
I shan't unless it's to go and make fun of Maple Leafs fans.
I agree with that statement.
Yeah, as an Ottawa Senators fan, I'm 1,000% behind that.
Because there's something we know. Who's gonna win? Toronto versus first round exit.
Yep.
Hockey joke. All right. Our favorite part, score prediction. Who's gonna be the optimist here?
I'm saying 2-0 St. Louis. So.
Okay, so it's not going to be DJ.
No, the scary thing would be that it is DJ.
I hate predicting this match. I
know.
You know what? I'm going to say all bad things have to come to an end. I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw, which I think would be the least satisfying result, while also being slightly satisfying because the team scores.
I'm going to go ahead and say I was going to lean towards like a 1-0 St. Louis because they're having troubles too, but I feel like they're doing it on a better a stance or in a better position than what the Fire are currently. But
against a weaker conference.
That is true. I know the Fire have always seemed to do okay against the other conference, even though RSL hasn't shown that. But yeah, no. I mean, like I say, I apologize for our lack of enthusiasm towards this. I mean, especially for me. It's been a season already, and we're not even halfway there.
We need results. So, did you say an answer?
Yeah, I said like 1-0 St. Louis, unfortunately. Right. I'm sorry. All right.
So we've got it. We'll see what happens. I think a good contingent of Fire fans are making it down to St. Louis. Much better than the 4 or 5 or something. Some number you can count on your fingers that traveled to Chicago for their match against the Fire last season.
That's true. There was no lot. I still remember the crowd for the Open Cup game. I still remember the crowd for both games, honestly.
Yep. All right. Well,
I don't feel like there's much to say other than thank you for your constant support of the Men in Red 97 podcasts, be it us at Bonfire or our friends over at Hot Takes, be it the social medias, MIR97, as well as the podcast, our MIR97 pods on Twitter, Instagram, all that fun jazz. Thank you for your constant support and, giving us a reason to, even late into the night, getting on the pod and spreading the news, the good word of the Fire, even if the word is not good.
I mean, everything is better together, and we're glad that you're still listening to us. And
united we stand, divided we fall.
Exactamente.
Exacto. All right. Any last words of wisdom, gentlemen, for our ladies and gentlemen and they thems of the Fire?
Well, you're the one of the words of wisdom about avoiding people with pitchforks.
That is true. I always say, watch out for men with pitchforks.
I also just women with pitchforks, like non-binary people, just like generally speaking, pitchforks, torches, like you see people with those, you go the other way. That's good advice. True. I've been spreading it, and I've been crediting you, Alan, by the way.
Thank you.
Whenever I've been spreading it.
I'm glad. I'm glad that people are watching out for men with pitchforks around the world. So,
not just the men.
But the women.
But the women and
the children too.
Yeah, no, like legitimately.
It was May the 4th recently, so of course.
We didn't even mention that it was a May the 4th game. What is wrong with us?
We're just that tired.
I mentioned that it was the second year in a row that the Fire's Star Wars night game was delayed by weather. So the Force is not with us.
The Force wasn't, no. But it was overall, it was cool. There were a bunch of cosplayers in different Star Wars costumes. Remember seeing Anakin, Ahsoka. I think the Bad Batch were also there. I also saw a bunch of other Mandalorians. Cool Star Wars night. All right, let's wrap it up before Tim's arms gets tired from telling me to wrap it up. All right. As always, I've been Alan, the Pole with the Gold, joined by my lovely co-host Tim and DJ. Through thick and thin. Come on, you Men in Red.
Come on, you Men in Red.
Let's go, Fire. Hold on a sec. Hang on. Don't end the podcast just yet.
What?
Now you're gonna do it.